What's up, guys? This is Quincy from Coin Club Crypto. Welcome to my channel, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like the topics we have to talk about today. Now, today we're going to be going over Q&A from Twitter. So you guys asked a ton of questions on Twitter, in which I'm going to go ahead and answer them. Some of them being technical questions, some of them being opinions, some of them just being super freaking random. But today we're going to go over some questions that you guys wanted to ask me. Now, before I get too into the questions, I'm going to start making this more of a series. And with this series, there are two questions that I'm not going to answer. Well, at least on Twitter. One, I'm never going to answer this. Do not ask about price. I'm not doing price predictions. It's not my dig. I do not care. I typically don't even really look at the prices in general. So don't even ask. You're wasting your time. Unless you enjoy wasting your time doing so, then keep doing that. Now, the second portion is, for any of my YouTube videos, you can always drop a comment for asking a request for another token video or another technology, whatever it may be. But usually when I ask for the Q&A type videos, I get so many of those token video questions anyway that I typically don't want those sort of included in these broader question, scope. I get questions for requests for tokens on every comment, on, for every video, on every comment, for every Twitter post, on every little thing that I could sneeze on a platform. And the only comments to that would be like, could you do this coin? So yeah, when I typically do these series, just ask any broader technology questions, nothing about price, and I'm going to get to your coin eventually. So stop worrying about it. Now, let's start getting into the questions. Let's check this out. So first question is going to be from Ruri G. I'm a developer interested in popular programming languages like JavaScript, C#, etc. I want to start programming for crypto. How do I start? Any guidance? Any project starting? Now looking for devs looking to join. Cheers. All right. So, Ruri, a good way to start, since you've already listed some of these other programs and other people that have any sort of general programming experience that have listed some of these languages, look at some of the SDKs and the APIs that some of these technologies have to offer. Some of them have very robust APIs built out in a series of different languages that are perfect for things like these. And in terms of projects, I would recommend you either start building your own projects, any sort of ideas that you may have, just to sort of get your feet wet with some of the technologies. And if you really want to find other people in the space that are like you, I could recommend something like Meetup to find people like locally, maybe join online groups to find people online. It's one of those things where there's really no good answer to find one group of whatever to start. But if you start looking, I guarantee you'll find it. But that's really kind of where it is. You got to know to start looking, and you got to know at the very least when you start looking at the documentations and the SDKs. So cool. Next, we have Andrew Rodriguez. I have a question about building a financial app. Are there any resources that can help a layman build a program like Wix with a website? I have an idea for P2P app. I have researched and not found anything similar, but I have no idea how to build it. Thanks. All right, so this is kind of interesting. You've kind of asked like a technical question, but you're not sure how to build it. And the first thing you got to do is figure out, well, what's the technical thing I'm trying to build here? Because it's one thing to ask a technical question of how do I do this in this capacity, especially when it comes to something like a low code application. And this is why it's important. Now, if this is some sort of, if you were some expert programmer out there that's like, hey, look, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and how am I going to go do it? I could tell you a few things to do, but in terms of a low code environment, they're very, very, a lot of the low code deployment features are very robust, but they're not as interchangeable as something that seems like you're trying to put forth here. Now, there are different technologies that have capabilities like this, like Cardano's one that has certain capabilities like this that's quite layman, and VeChain's another, and there's a handful of other technologies that have certain application features that make it easier for layman people to get involved. But for the application you're trying to put together, you're going to have to figure that out. That's a fundamental technological portion. It could be something so niche that you have to make it up yourself because it doesn't exist. But just in a general sense, there are technologies out there. And really, if you look at all the different technologies, they have some form of low-code environment type of deal that you can work with. But for the application you're trying to ask here, it's just too vague. Not to mention the technologies operate differently, but we'll get into that. Now, we've got Nicholas Rosen. What is your view on Chainlink? I hear lots of conflicting opinions. Is there tech that completes? How deep is the integrations into connections with HBAR and other technologies? Thanks for offering. So, Chainlink, all I really know about Chainlink is that it's a supply chain technology that helps maintain different supply chain features, and it uses cryptography for that, similar to other technologies. I'm not a huge Chainlink marine or anything. And when it comes to some of these other broader industries that regard to crypto, I'm primarily looking into, I guess you could sort of see like finance and compliance needs, not so much of something like Chainlink in regards to supply chain. But you should go do your research, check out the Chainlink documentation, and read more about that if you had more questions. All right, so from Rustic Woodworks, is it possible to create a build plan for our products in order to retain the patent design but sell them as NFTs or other? It seems more affordable that way to offer our design without zillion copycats stealing our livelihood. Been there. Also, will an NFT serve as a patent? All right, cool. You asked like the cool question. That's actually one of the main services I think NFTs can like provide. It's not just for identifying patents, but it's for just identifying anything. And the big thing that you can end up doing with this, especially in regards to smart contracts, I actually like made a video about that, talking about smart contracts and their relationship with tokens and what can be done, especially with NFTs. But yeah, totally something with a patent in regards to securing the overall idea of whatever you created in a cryptographic format. And hosting it as an NFT, and then maybe using a smart contract on top of that to basically help order. And it wouldn't even have to be a complex smart contract. It could be a smart contract that just took into consideration a series of variables, and then the transfer rights for every time it's bought and sold, and maybe something like that on top of it to keep track of your patents. And but yeah, you could totally do something like that. It's definitely possible. There are technologies out there that could totally work with that. Yeah. So if you are very much interested in that, you can find technologies that will do that for you. All right, so next we have here to learn. Do you see securities trading moving to a public ledger to avoid manipulation, FTDs, etc., being possible, business dependent, or can retail help force that a change? So when it comes to securities tradings on public ledgers, I do think that's going to be a huge thing in the future in regards to just liquidity purposes, not only for the individual exchange that's listing the security, but to be able to get that broader liquidity as a whole. It's more of an efficiency thing. The big thing that's going to come on top of that is what's the regulatory framework for issuing native, or I guess you could say domestic securities on a global network. It's gonna be a huge question to be asked. It's way bigger than the Ripple question, and on whether cryptos or securities or whatever. It really comes down to what's the regulatory framework of issuing securities on the internet and how does that operate. But it's a good question, and it's gonna be something that is gonna be coming into the future for what's gonna come down the line in terms of regulation, because it's inevitable. So let's get into the next one. We got Crypto Carrot. Hey Quincy, I know you probably have said this somewhere before, but what's your favorite thing about XDC? So I get this all the time. My favorite thing about XDC is being able to have that private public hybrid layer. And I kind of like that in general with a lot of these new technologies. When I first dove into technologies, I looked at a lot of the public networks, and I've seen some networks that have private features like Monero and Zcash. But the idea of there being like hybrid networks that can operate publicly and privately were super cool to me. And that's kind of the biggest reasons why I got driven to XDC and some of the other technologies. All right, next we've got Chicken XRP. Would you rather hang with David or Brad for an evening if you could? If I can go to a bar, I would hang out with David, and if I could just hang out and talk, I would probably hang out with Brad. And I know it sounds kind of silly because you'd be like, wouldn't you want to go to a bar with the CEO? It's like, yeah, sure, cool. Like I'd kind of want to pick his brain, but honestly, I would love to see David Schwartz kind of just buzzed out, loosened up, and kind of just seeing what he thought on things. You know, he always seems kind of like really in the zone for stuff. I'd love to just see kind of just his kick back opinion on stuff. It'd be kind of cool. But let's get into the next one. So we've got. Wow, freaking, will you, also from the same guy as part of the question, will you ever grow an afro? Maybe if I get 100,000 subs, I might. We'll see. Awesome. So we got Chris Rodriguez. You know how some prepaid cell phone carriers require you to buy minutes to make a phone call? Well, what if there was a token that allowed you to refill your minutes with the token? Is there any tech or project out there like that would there would there be demand? Actually, I think so. For a project like this, I don't know if there are projects out there like this, but for in terms of demand, yes, this is actually kind of the biggest thing in terms of banking the unbanked. There's actually kind of like a joke in some parts of Africa that paying for minutes is worth more than the currency because you constantly need that constant demand for minutes, and people will sell them on the secondary market. So yeah, there's totally, and this is obviously like sort of region specific for certain economies that could be based off this, but there's definitely a demand there. Don't know if there are projects out there that actually operate on that. Definitely a demand. But well, I might even take a look into that. But yeah, we'll see. Now we've got one from Dan. What's your views regarding the use case of Casino Coin? So Casino Coin, and just sort of a general like use case example, it just seems like a good interoperable standard for different entities that wanted to engage in gambling to basically be able to engage with their users without having to have their own proprietary payment networks and then have their users pop from silo to silo to silo for payment networks. And then this operates on a global scale. So this can honestly not only operate on online casinos, but could potentially operate with real life casinos when it comes to digital exchanges and payments. Not to mention, it kind of seems like the whole dig with Casino Coin is buying the coin itself is sort of a gamble in itself. So it seems to sort of drive a little bit of hype around it. I think that's quite interesting. But it seems like an interesting coin for the project that it, or for the, the use case it's trying to accomplish. So we might even see it for gaming. Who knows? Like video gaming, not like just casino gaming. But let's go into the next one. We've got, after this lawsuit is over, between the SEC and Ripple, do you see a real change in the system soon? So I think one thing people are like putting like too much emphasis on is the Ripple lawsuit's just one of many different regulatory like events that are going to happen that's going to drive the space. So it's going to be like one of the dominoes to fall, but there are definitely a lot more things that come down the pipe. Now, this could be one of the biggest dominoes, one of the first big dominoes, sure, but there are definitely a lot more to come down the pipe. So we'll definitely see that in the next coming years. All right. We got Quincy. I'm trying to help my niece, my nephew pick paths towards coding careers as they both love computers, etc. I'm wondering what path of study would you recommend, languages, etc. We're big fans of yours. Cool. And this is coming from Linja. Cool. Yeah, so when it comes to like kids being interested in tech, I think the biggest thing you could really do is sort of introduce them to just broader technology. So you don't really need to just push them straight into coding because coding's really technical, but just exposing them to different technologies, doing the things they like doing anyway. Like it could be something simple like your kids could be into dinosaurs. Okay, cool. Well, what websites out there, what, different functions out there that'll get them interactive with dinosaurs? Just them being more interactive with the technology and wanting to drive change will sort of give them that little bit of like ingenuity and curiosity that would be good for different tech careers. And obviously it just goes from there of whether they're willing to go down the technical career path or go more towards like a business, business management or product management career path, but still sort of in the technical space. I think the biggest thing as a whole is just getting people interested in tech, no matter what that is, around the topics that they are most familiar with and most passionate about. So yeah, if you can find something like that to really get them interested and engaged, that'd be great. Now, next we've got, is launching stablecoins on the XRP Ledger by nations practical and or probable? Practical, yes. Probable, potentially. It really just comes down to what technologies they want to use. So you can issue stablecoins on the XRP Ledger, and there's no doubt that multiple technologies will have different stablecoins issued on them, XRP potentially being one of them. The real question that you have to ask yourself is, what technology do you think will be the biggest in regards, not even really the biggest, what set of technologies do you think will foster the ecosystem of CBDCs or central bank digital currencies? And that should answer your question there. I don't know if anyone can answer that question, but answering that will answer your question. So, and all right, we got one from David Brookfield. What's the definition of a bear market in crypto? No one knows, apparently. Some definitions don't even make sense. If we don't know what constitutes a bear market, then it's just anyone's guess after the event. I feel like that's just a bear market, like classic definition of a bear market. No one realizes that we're in it till after we're in it. So I guess that's it right there. We're not in a bear market until everyone goes, yep, guess we're in it. Like, so it's like the classic like economics meme of like, well, like as long as nobody says it's true, it's not. And then as soon as everybody says it's true, it all of a sudden is, regardless of whatever the broader aspect of that is. But no, that's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just when people go, oh, I guess it's not time to make any more money. So, but Oh, this is interesting from Genie. So, if humans cannot see air, can fish see water? I'm just gonna let that sit. So, yeah, this was definitely a really wacky question, but all right, cool. So, Coin Club Quincy. This is from Sea of Reg. Coin Club Quincy. Is there any work being done to address cross-border payment challenges in the Caribbean? I think there are some work to be adoption. I think there's some work to get adoption can be done quicker in this region. By the way, I'm also a regulator. Okay, cool. In regards to something like the Caribbean or just really any other country that hasn't adopted a lot of these technologies or even had any sort of like framework around these, I think it's coming. I think it just comes down to the individual governments, and obviously you probably know that more than I do. It comes down to the individual governments on what they want to do in regards to adoption of some of these, which I think at the end of the day comes down to what type of regulations are they going to enforce before they let the markets loose. But I think that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Obviously, it comes down to different partnerships, different companies, and whatever that may be in the local economy that this may reside in. But I think at the end of the day, it's just what the governments decide, or at least what their local governments decide. All right, cool. So we got one from Falcon X. If XRP were to get the new currency, why would anyone cash out for old fiat that's going away? So I guess it's hold on forever. So yeah, you got to remember, these are cryptocurrencies, right? So the idea of it being a currency would assume that you'd be able to buy things. Now, I think the way we go around using currencies in the future may be slightly different, especially through different mediums that we may use them, especially with decentralized networks when it comes to cryptos. But yeah, at the end of the day, these are cryptocurrencies. So it's one of those things where like you're almost admitting that it's a crypto asset if you don't believe you could spend this in the future. And there are different ways that I believe that you could do so. And I actually go into other videos explaining that you don't necessarily go around spending the actual token. You actually spend you spend the actual token in a smart contract ecosystem of its native token, or you spend the fundamental value of whatever the token is in the form of whatever derivative that's underlying that asset. I've got a bigger video on that explaining that, but that's really when it comes down to what you do in terms of liquidating your assets. It's more of a being able to spend them by using the technology. Now, I think I got a couple more. So we've got, what's your opinion on Pi Network and Picoin? I think it's an interesting project. The idea of being able to mine technology or being able to mine different coins from your smartphone is pretty interesting. Don't think it's live yet, so we'll see what happens when it's out. But yeah, it's cool. We've got, and that was from Manny Rivera. So this is going to be from XRP Brit. Do you see any vendors like eBay accepting altcoins as form of payment? It depends on whether they're determined to be a currency or not. Yeah, pending regulation. So yeah, we'll see after we get some regulation in regards to what's defined as what. And last, we've got, other than possibly making you rich, and this is by what's up, Doc? Other than possibly making you rich, how will blockchain technology make my life better? Now, there's a lot of different features to blockchain technology that'll make our lives better, but sort of to wrap it up in a nutshell, you're gonna get faster applications, wider scalable applications. So there's gonna be a smaller barrier to entry to be able to scale global applications and global enterprises, and a high level of security because of how the networks are operating. That's sort of a general sense. But yeah, you get that security, you get the high scalability, and you essentially, and part of it too is the innovation of being able to build on top of these technologies. These are open source technologies too. So you can build on top of these technologies, which is quite an interesting conundrum because never before we've had just free technology in which people can make money off of and basically be able to grow global enterprise off of. But that's basically kind of what we have here for what you can do outside of just making money. And I hope you guys were able to sort of enjoy my Q&A. I'll be shouting these out a little bit more on a consistent basis, maybe every week, every 2 weeks. Maybe we'll see how often I shout on Twitter to see if I can gauge your questions. Next time I'll probably have them be a bit more topic based and as opposed to just random. I just wanted to see what I could sort of gauge. And I've tried doing this before, but that's where I got a bunch of people asking about doing this token. So like I said, again, I'm not going to review any tokens for something like this. I prefer not to have any questions based off that. I'm not doing any price predictions. But if you have any questions, just ask, and we'll see you on the next one.